It's been a really busy week for Prime Minister Mark Carney. Today, he will announce the next steps in his energy deal with Alberta.
To create the conditions to build the clean grid of the future, we need a carbon pricing market that actually works. We will also advance potential pipeline to transport at least 1 million barrels of low-emission Alberta oil a day to new markets.
After months of negotiations, the Prime Minister says he's reached an industrial carbon pricing agreement with Alberta Premier Danielle Smith. The deal comes just one day after Mark Carney outlined Canada's new national electricity strategy. So lots to talk about. Here to help us unpack these proposals, we're joined by the Globe and Mail's Ottawa Bureau Chief, Robert Fife. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
So, industrial carbon pricing, key part of the Ottawa-Alberta Energy Memorandum of Understanding. Sources are telling CTV News that by 2040, we've got the numbers on the screen for our viewers, Alberta's industrial carbon price will be $130 per ton. That is $40 less and 10 years later than the price set by the Trudeau government. How big of a shift is this from what is currently in place?
Well, nothing is currently in place because nobody is paying. They're not up to $170. They're at right now. Alberta's about $95 per barrel, and it's going to be a slower pace to get to 130. But that's the price the Carney government believes is necessary to get a pipeline, bitumen pipeline from Alberta, a second one from Alberta to the West Coast. It's also a signal to the global community that Canada is open for investment in the oil and gas sector, but also in other natural resources sectors. The other key thing that we have to watch for today is as part of this memorandum of understanding that we go from 130 to 2040 is what they're going to do about carbon capture. There's a pipeline that they want to build from the oil sands to Fort McMurray so they can store carbon and be able to reduce emissions. The industry hasn't been keen on this, so we'll have to see what kind of incentives the government has, probably tax incentives both Alberta and the federal government's offer to get this underway, because the Prime Minister said yesterday, without carbon capture, there will be no a pipeline approval.
And July 1st is the deadline, right, for Alberta to submit their proposal? Right?
Yeah, and that's really interesting, Leslie, because there's a debate going on here behind the scenes. The federal government seems to be leaning more towards a pipeline that would be a southern route to Vancouver. We have to have a new terminal, where the Alberta government wants to go a northern route, which would take 3 days. Super tankers would be able to come in, and it would be 3 days shorter to Asian markets. But the problem that the federal government sees is that it's very, very difficult to get First Nations approval along that northern route. And the other issue is we require the government to lift the tanker ban, which is really strongly opposed by the BC government. So, but we won't know about that, and the Alberta government will present its proposals on July, and we are told that in September there will be approval, and then we'll see if which oil companies step up to the plate to be willing to spend billions of dollars on an oil pipeline. I suspect the federal government is going to have to put up some money, and they also have money available for Indigenous communities to buy in.
All right, let's turn to electricity, specifically the Prime Minister saying his national electricity strategy will double Canada's capacity by 2050. What is the plan exactly?
Well, the plan is missing a lot of details. For example, how do we get there, and who's going to pay for it? And I think this is one of the reasons why we're going to see the Prime Minister is planning to have a major investment summit in Toronto in September, where he's going to try to raise money for a sovereign investment fund. He's trying to encourage wealthy investors from all over the world, particularly from the Middle East, to come and be able to invest in clean energy and electricity and oil and gas pipelines. This is a major deal that's going to happen in September, because we do actually need more power. And the reason for this is, look, we are going to have more AI data centers. There's going to be more minings of critical minerals and processing. We're going to have more battery supply chains. Simply the fact is that we are going to be moving eventually to more EV cars and a whole lot of other issues like that. So we do need the energy, but we need to get the money to be able to invest in these kinds of technologies.
Like $1 trillion by 2050. I said
Correct.
trillion,
And
yeah.
obviously, Canadian taxpayers can't pay for all of this, so we need to get investors to do so.
I want to ask you lastly about this new discussion paper that talks about Transport Canada considering selling some seaports. Here's what the Prime Minister said on Thursday.
Are there assets that the federal government has that we could recycle the investment into supporting building new assets? Airports is an example that is out there. I think the port reference is with.
So we had heard the talks about airports, right? Last month's spring economic update left the door open to selling off airports. But now we're talking seaports. What's what's driving this push toward privatizing federal property?
Well, the Prime Minister did say in that scrum that he wasn't privatizing ports was not a high priority on his part. But look, governments are not as efficient running airports or ports. And it's going back really to the Mulroney days where Prime Minister Mulroney privatized a lot of, he privatized Petro-Canada, he privatized Canadair, a whole bunch of Crown corporations were privatized, and they run better by the private sector. And I think the Prime Minister is looking, how can we get our ports and our airports to run more efficiently? Well, it's better to put it in the hands of the private sector than it is in the hands of bureaucrats.
Robert Fife, we appreciate your time, as always, especially over the years. And before I let you go, we here at Your Morning want to wish you the warmest congratulations on your retirement. Look at the smile, the retirement that's upcoming.
Well, thank you very much. I've always enjoyed, well, I spent a decade working as the Ottawa Bureau Chief for CTV, and I've been on your shows and other shows over the last 10 years at the Globe and Mail, and I really have great appreciation for CTV and the people who watch you and all your CTV shows. So thank you very much.
We value you so much. Congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you.
If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.